For your viewing pleasure today, we're going to be talking about using some of the draw tools. Specifically, we're going to be talking about using shapes. There's a few things we're going to cover. One is about creating these new shapes, resizing them, filling them with various items, whether it be pictures or gradient or solid. We're going to be talking about borders and the different types of borders that you can put on these draw tools, and then arrows, and then finally we're going to wrap it up with word art. Ultimately, what you're going to be creating today will look something like what's at the bottom of the assignment sheet. It does not have to be in this order, and obviously it will not be my name. It will be your name that you're creating with word art. But that's essentially what we're going to be doing today, is creating these, and then you'll see how using the draw tools actually benefits you when we talk later in lessons about using text boxes and things like that. So let's get started. First of all, the way to access draw tools is to go to the Insert ribbon, and then you'll see Shapes. You can also go to Insert on the menus and go to Shape. You'll notice it's pretty limited here though, which is weird because usually the menus open up quite a bit more, but they're pretty limited here. So I recommend you do use the ribbon. It gives you more options. So from Shapes, you click on that and you wait patiently, and you can see there's a variety of shapes to use. Now, don't be confused because there is not specifically a square, because it's under the rectangles, and what you know about the properties of a square are it's very similar to a rectangle. For our purposes, just to show, let's go ahead and put in a parallelogram, because how fun is that to say? You have a couple options. When you select this, notice my cursor changes to a plus sign instead of, like, my normal pointer. I can either click one time and it will draw a simple one in for me, and I could say, yep, it's all done. Or I can go back up here, if I wait patiently for it. And I can go to Shapes. I'll choose that same parallelogram again just for the sake of showing you. And then I can draw it also to the size that I want. Now notice I'm holding down on my cursor when I do this, and it will show me the exact size. Now let's say I can't get this exact size. Like I want it to be 1.7. Oh, there's 1.75. Well, let's say I want it at 1.7 and I can't quite do 1.7, but I want it to be that height. So what could I do? Well, once this is drawn, you'll notice a whole new tab shows up, a whole new ribbon, excuse me, that's called your shape formatting ribbon. And over here on the right hand side is where you can see to adjust the shape height and width. So here I could just manually type in 1.7 and hit enter, and it will make that. It automatic adjusts it for you. You can also resize if you find that you have something like, I don't like this standard one, maybe I want to resize. All of these little things here that you can grab a hold of are called handles. Now handles are important because they're like handlebars, on a bike, kind of important. It's cool when you can ride without them, but it's also really important to have them when you're first learning, especially, or if you need to turn corners, it's much easier. So you can grab any one of these handles and you can resize. You'll see when we talk pictures later on that there are also many similar properties there. Now, excuse me, because this is a parallelogram, you also see an additional item added here, and that's so you could adjust the lines on the parallelogram. So maybe you want them to go in more, or make it more of an angle, I guess is what I'm saying. There's also, on any sort of shape that you put in, the circle at the top that has the little, you see it looks like a C and an arrow, so that means you can just rotate it, and that's all it means. Let's come back over here to this shape though. So there are some formatting things that I want to do. You understand sizing because you can drag from the handles. You can also click and hold and it will show you the sizing, or you can come up here into the ribbon and it will show sizing. Well, there's more that you can do with this. So you might want to open the format pane either by clicking on this icon, or you can right click and you can go to Format Shape. And when you do that, it opens up this right sidebar. And this right sidebar, literally you just look at the pictures and it will help you. The first one talks about the fill, like the paint bucket spilling, so it's your fill in your line. The next one is about shape effects that you can add, and then the final one is about your layout and your properties. So for our purposes, we're going to focus mostly with just this fill bucket. So let's open this disclosure triangle by fill. And you can see to add a solid color, blue is by default the solid color that is there. So maybe I don't want to add blue. Maybe I want to add an orange. Or maybe I decide, no, that's too much of a burnt orange. And then again, how we can readjust any font colors. It's the exact same way you can do it here. You open up this menu, and I want to make that tangerine instead. So then it would be a different shade of orange. So that's one way I can change, but a solid color is kind of boring. So it's important you know there's other things you can do. The gradient fill, and a gradient just means it's a gradual change. The gradient fill has all sorts of different items. Now, as we look here, there are preset ones. You could choose any one of those. You can choose what kind of gradient it is. Linear obviously means it's like a line, so you can see it seems to be lighter here, darker here, darkest here, and then lighter again here, all in a line though. If you did a radial sort of one, it radiates around one center point. If you did a rectangular, it would follow like a rectangle, and you can see there's a little bit of a square there. And then if it follows a path, you can obviously see there's a path in there. I personally do not like the light blue and white, so there's some changes you can make. I'm going to get rid of a couple of these stops though, because I don't want this many in here. So I'm going to get rid of that one, and I'm going to get rid of that one. And I'm just going to do 2 of them. And instead of white, I'm going to come down here to my color, and to hurt your eyes, I'm going to say yellow. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to say, oh, I want darker blue than that. I was going to do go lopers. So we'll do a midnight blue. Okay, there you can definitely see that. And then I could change that gradient stop. You know, maybe I want it to be harsher or less. Same way here, maybe I want that to be more or I want it to be less. You know, it's entirely up to you. The assignment's going to ask you to create some simple ones with black and white. And so you can choose, just when it asks you to do them, make sure you know that it has to be, some of them have to be linear, they have to be a horizontal gradient, or they have to be a vertical gradient. Well, make sure you're aware of that, because then in the direction, this would be horizontal. What I have chosen right here, this is diagonal. It even says diagonal. This one over here is also diagonal. This is a horizontal. This is a diagonal. This would be vertical. This would be vertical. So whatever you decide to choose, make sure it is just fitting the parameters of what the assignment is asking you specifically. So gradients are fairly simple to do, and it's really just a matter of how much you want to play with your formatting. You can also do various fills with pictures. And so you could, if you have a picture from file, we'll come back to that one. There are preloaded textures in here, so maybe I want fish all over mine. It's kind of hard to see the fish on that one. Maybe I want to do bubbles because I really like water bubbles or something. So I could go ahead and put those pictures in there. I could also do a pattern. You ever wonder how people do those really obnoxious things that hurt people's eyes? Here, purple will be a really good one, and yellow will go all Battle Creek colors on you, and then I'll do this. Yep, that's to hurt your eyes. The assignments do not ask for that, thank goodness, but just so you know, that's how you could create those. Those pattern fills are already there. You just have a variety of them to choose from, whatever you would want. Let's go back to picture though. So I did say you could insert a picture of really just about anybody, and I don't remember if I kept your pictures on here, if I trashed them. Let's see what I did. From file would be one on my desktop. Oh, that's your assignment. Nope, I must have trashed them. You are in luck, so I'm going to pick on my daughter because I have her school picture right here. To get pictures that you'd want, obviously if you go over here into your media and photos, it would take things from Photo Booth. If you grab something from the internet, obviously it's going to be wherever you've downloaded that to. If you've just taken a random picture, it's going to be in your pictures file. So let me just use this one of Ella, and I will show you inserted in there. I can put her picture. And so you can do that with any sort of picture that you want to, and you know, put it on whatever shape. So it wouldn't even have to necessarily be on this parallelogram. Maybe you want to put it on a circle or something like that. You could make the fill a picture. And it just gives you a little bit more formatting options is really what it does. So we can check off now. We've talked about sizing and resizing. We've talked about doing various fills, solid fills, or gradient fills. Please note when it says add it as 100% color, 100% colors are any of these along the top row and any of these standard colors. When you come in here and hover, notice that says like it's orange accent to darker 25%. That's not 100% color. That's one that's a little bit lighter or has a little bit more transparency added to it. So in the assignment when it says 100% yellow, make sure you choose like the bright yellow that's down here because that's one of the 100% colors. Okay, next thing I want to talk about then is adding a line around something. So let's say the assignment right now, if you look at this by default, it is a light blue line. If the assignment asks for no line, you literally check the box or the radio button, excuse me, that says no line. But many of them ask you for a solid line. I'm going to toggle this close so we have some more room here. I could change the line color to make it stand out. Let's see, green would stand out pretty good against that, so we'll just choose a green. It's still kind of light. You'll notice the width of this right now is only 1 point. Well, I have the option to take that baby up as big as I'd want to. I mean, I could keep going. Now my line pretty much would start to take over my parallelogram. But you can see, and you could obviously, you could go in and you can manually type in, you know, whatever number you'd want to, and make those changes. I'm going to take this back down to 2 so it's a little bit more manageable. Again, with this, you could do a gradient line. None of the assignments ask for that, but you can notice, like, by default, this is a lighter blue here, and it's like more of a whitish color up here. If I deselect, it's probably easier to see that, but then you notice when you deselect that ribbon goes away at the top, and also your sidebar changes as well because you're not in that editing mode as much. So for this assignment, though, you're just doing solid lines, but it's important that you understand there are various types of lines that you can put around it as well. I'm going to go up a little bit just so you can see this. So when it says compound type, that can be a solid line, it can be 2 lines, and sometimes it's hard to see the 2 lines. You might either have to change your zoom, and that's down here at the bottom, or you can go to view and change your zoom to see that that is there. Or, and I'm only saying that, like, if I took this back down to maybe like a 2 point, it's really kind of hard to see that. I mean, I could zoom in for you and show, yep, there really are 2 there. But if you can't see it, one way to check it, like I said, is to go to the zoom down at the bottom, or you can go up here to view and go to zoom and change that. So you can see there's what that looks like. When you choose maybe like a thick line and a thin line together, maybe it's easier to see that way. Or you can see thin and thick, or then thin, thick, thin, and the triple line would be something else you could choose. In addition to choosing the compound type, you can also change what style it is. Rather than just be a solid dash, it could be little dots all the way around. And these dots don't look so little because I have them set to 4.5 point, which is quite big. I could do a sort of Morse codey looking thing if I wanted that. I could make it just regular dashes if I wanted that are equidistant apart. You can do whatever you decide you want to. So we've now covered sizing or resizing. We've covered fill. We've covered the borders or no border in some cases, and then also the various ways that you can set your border to look with the compound type and the dash type. Next thing I want to do is insert an arrow. So if you come back with me to the insert menu and we would do a shape, notice there is a line. There's also an arrow. Do not confuse these block arrows for just drawing a line arrow. A line arrow is going to be what you want, and I wouldn't do one of these for the assignment purposes, but just know that they're available. So we're going to go ahead and draw one in. Now if it asks for a horizontal one and you accidentally draw it up like this, I'd probably just hit delete. By the way, that's how you can get rid of one, is just to hit the delete key when it's selected. But I would probably hit one of those because when it asks you for a horizontal arrow, it literally means it wants a horizontal arrow. Now again, you have the exact same capabilities. You can change the size of it. Now, why is there no shape height? Because it's a line, and lines don't really have a height. They have the width, though, or the length that you're doing. Maybe I wanted to change this, and I wanted to move it around and have it go the other way. I could do that. Looks like it's going to be hard for me to get that even, though. Let's see if I could change that back down to 0. There we go. The one way you can change, though, a little bit with height is to go in with the line and to change that width to something more significant, and then you can see what it would look like. Can you do fill colors on a line? No, because it's a line. That kind of takes you back to your elementary school days. But you can do some things with this line. Obviously, you can change the colors of it, so maybe I want to make a red line. I could again decide, do I want it to be like 2 arrows together, or excuse me, 2 lines together, the thin, thick, and all that business. The dash type again, maybe I want it to all be little weird dots. It's kind of hard to tell with an arrow, though, why you would want spaces in between it or something. But it's there. It's a possibility. Other things you can do, though, is this beginning and ending arrow style. So what do I want it to look like? Well, an arrow doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, just a point on the end. It could be a dot, or it could be a square. It could be the standard what you think of filled in. It could be more of an open arrow, as this one says, or more of a stealth arrow. And if the assignment asks you just to do an arrow on one side or the other, well then obviously, like, I wouldn't want one here. I would just go back to plain line, and I'd make my ending one more of a stealth look if that's what I wanted to do. And you'll notice you can even change how that's going to look. Maybe I make it super gigantic, or maybe I leave it itty bitty, which really looks kind of weird with that fat of a line. But now you understand how to do that.